and welcome to another edition of Dialogues on Faith. I'm Juan Carlos Moreno, Director of the Office of Evangelization, Catechesis, and Family Life for the Diocese of Dallas. And today we have with us Amy White with the Texas Catholic and Troy Lorette with our Diocesan Department of Communications. Welcome both.
Thanks for having us here.
Excited to be here.
Next week, we celebrate in the Catholic Church the liturgical solemnity of Christ the King. And this is a feast that marks the end of our liturgical calendar. And as Catholics, it's a unique feature of our faith that we mark the passing of time, not by the usual calendar of January to December, or even the financial calendar of June to July, but we mark it by this particular feast of Christ the King. Our calendar then begins with the first Sunday of Advent, the time that we prepare for the triple arrival of Jesus, in time, in history, today in our heart, and we look forward to his coming, future coming at the end of history. And so we wanted to explore today not just the liturgical meaning that we do during Mass, but what does it mean in our context, in our life? What does it look like to celebrate Christ the King, Amy?
I think that celebrating Christ as King means that we are living lives that reflect Him and the fact that we are His people. And so there are some contexts where that can be, very explicit. Maybe you're catechizing to someone. But there are other contexts, maybe more secular contexts, where it might be prudent to witness primarily through just the way that you live your life. And so I'm thinking about workplaces, school places where you can be a witness to Christ the King by bringing kindness into the environment, by being a responsible employee, being a responsible student, avoiding gossip, and all of that attracts people to this faith that we have and points them ultimately to Christ, who is our King.
Thank you, Amy. Troy?
Yeah, I agree. I really like what you said there. I'm often reminded that sometimes the best form of evangelization and bringing Christ, our King, into the world is simply through building relationships, building friendships, just invitation. And sometimes in those environments where we can't explicitly share about our faith, we can build those strong friendships and those strong connections to maybe open doors in the future to share about our faith more explicitly.
Thank you. And another aspect is that through our baptism, we were anointed and united in Christ's triple mission as priest, prophet, and king. So I wanted to ask you, how do we live in our own personal context this call to be united in Christ's kingly mission? For me, as a father and as a husband, it's fairly clear that my kingly role is to set the order. It comes with authority to have discipline in my family, with my children. But as young people in your own context, how do you feel called to be united in this kingly mission of Jesus? Amy?
I think as young people, we have a lot of opportunities to bring Christ into the world. Young people have very differing lives, but there are a lot of needs that we have the freedom to address. And so we need to have our ears open to our community to see what they need. And so this can be more traditional ways of ministering to people, maybe like bringing a meal to someone who's ill, or helping a family member in need. But as young people, there's also this huge need for people to tend to loneliness, people to have connection. And so we need to bring a listening ear into all that we do, and through listening to people, through having that loving attention to the people that are actually in our lives, we can live out that call that we have.
And for Troy?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think where I found a lot of joy in kind of giving of my time and recently has been volunteering at my parish with the youth ministry. Just getting to, again, like you mentioned, listen to these teenagers and what they're going through and how they view the world and how they view their faith, and also have an opportunity to share about my faith and kind of accompany them through that has been a really great joy. And I think volunteering in those kinds of ways at the parish level can also be a very beautiful way to bring Christ into our lives.
Thank you. Now, another aspect of this feast that we can explore, we talked about the kingly role, the authority, the leadership, but also another facet is that if God is king, we are his stewards. So how do you think we are called to take care of the things entrusted to us? If God is our king and we are his stewards, how can we exercise this stewardship, Amy?
There's such a great responsibility to be stewards just because of the wealth of things that we've been given. I think one way that we know that we're called to be stewards is as stewards of creation. And this can seem like an overwhelming task just because there's so much that's outside of our control. But there are still things that we can do to tend to creation, trying to avoid being wasteful. We can be mindful in the way that we shop, trying to do that ethically. There are so many ways that we can tend to creation also just by being kind to the animals around us, all of that. But we're also part of creation, and so we can be stewards of our own bodies and minds and souls by taking care of ourselves, trying to live healthy lives, not only physically, but also mentally and spiritually.
I think it starts with that viewpoint of gratitude, right? Being able to view the blessings and the responsibilities that the Lord has placed in our life, those people, those activities as blessings, and being able to see it with that gratitude allows us to really enter in to serving God in those areas.
And now that we are towards the end of the Jubilee year of hope, another thing that we can explore is how do we keep our hope in Christ the King alive, especially when we see situations in our world today of injustice, of violence, or even hatred. How do we keep that hope alive in Christ the King?
In the context of a world that's not perfect, where we do see violence and we do see hatred and we do see injustice, the way to keep hope alive, it seems to me, is not by painting over those things or trying to pretend that they don't exist or pushing them to the side somehow, but instead entering into them and bringing the light of Christ into those places. There are so many people that are suffering. There are so many people that are affected by the hard sides of being alive and being a human. And when we are willing to enter into those places, when we're willing to accompany them, that's how we bring hope and that's how we bring Christ to them. And by doing that, I think we also reconnect with that hope in ourselves.
Yeah, as we near the end of the Jubilee year, we're joyfully anticipating Christmas, Christ's coming at Christmas. And I'm just reminded that as we celebrate that Christmas season, that Christ is our hope. And not only did Christ come into the world 2,000 years ago, but he also comes into our lives daily today as our hope. And I think when we really find that Jesus present in our hearts and in our lives daily, we're able to unite and find that hope.
Thank you so much to both of you for sharing your insights with us today, and to our viewers at home. Thank you for joining us. And we have the invitation from the church there to unite ourselves to the kingly mission of Christ in conquering sin throughout our lives in every context that we encounter ourselves. Thank you so much. See you next time.